Having seen the original The Boy film, I kind of expected this film, its sequel, to be predictable. But Brahms' The Boy 2 was a bit of a curveball, and every bit the Hammer horror flick its predecessor was. If you're not familiar, it's basically the story of a seemingly cursed doll or haunted doll, which turned out to be a monster in the woods or monster in the walls flick. I figured this film would be similar, but it wasn't, not quite. Um, Once again, the prop looked extremely creepy. I don't see any child ever wanting this, ever. The cast, Katie Holmes makes for a pretty decent, bedraggled, yeah, no, belly-guarded mom who has to face some very visceral mom fears. Her husband, whose name I probably would mispronounce, he was good. Sort of a background character to the mom and the kid. But he did good. As for the kid, he was able to garner sympathy, but also be extremely creepy. Like, don't turn your back on this kid. Except when he's crying, because, sympathetic. The rest of the cast, especially one actor who played a fellow Joseph, was pretty good. I'm not going to spoil his story, but he's definitely worth mentioning. One character was actually phoned in, well, video phoned, and she did a good job. I'm not going to spoil it for those of you who haven't seen it. But everyone involved, I think, did well with what they were given. I don't think The Boy 2 is going to be as well liked as The Boy 1, but it didn't, I don't think, insult the established story. It took the story that was established and ran with it in a slightly different direction, but I think it's in keeping with its Hammer horror-esque vibe. The music was very, very subdued. I think it was orchestral, but mostly the quiet and certain sounds were made to heighten the tension, not excessive music tones, which was good. The living spaces that the people were in, an apartment, a little cottage, the big house from the first film, and some woods, were characters unto themselves. They were meant to symbolize that there is no such thing as sanctuary. You could be attacked anywhere, anytime, and that sort of hits people where they live. I thought my throat was going to cooperate. I thought what they did with the various settings was very smart, because a good or bad setting in a film can make or break it. And I think the cast, the props, the setting, the music all came together to make a respectful little horror film that probably won't get as much praise as the original. Maybe not even that. Or maybe even any praise. But I thought it was good. I wouldn't put it in my top 10 horror list, because those spots are pretty much filled. But it might be useful to get people interested in good horror, really good horror, especially the Hammer horror from back in the day. Because I honestly think this film wouldn't be out of place in that studio. Well, with the exception of the lack of excessive gore and nudity that made Hammer horror famous. More the emotional stuff and the suspense. That said, overall, I thought The Boy 2 was good, creepy fun. This is Mr. J signing out and reminding you, stick to Zords, because Zords are never creepy. Porcelain is not a building material meant for toys. It's a building material meant for toilets. And dolls are creepy.